Hello and welcome to this presentation on the introduction to L2L's digital production system. Before we get started in talking about a digital production system, let's first establish what is a production system. So what are we talking about when we say a production system? A production system, ever since there has been goods and services sold to the general public, there has always been behind that, in the making of those goods and service, a production system. Factories, companies, businesses throughout all of time have had some type of process or some type of system of producing their product. In most cases, those production systems really have three main parts inside of them. The first part of that is the input. So the raw material, the documentation, the how-to, the labor, all of that is the input of the production system. All of those inputs then go into the conversion of that raw material to the product itself. So the operations itself, the planning, inspections, the support processes, safety and engineering, and all of that goes into the converting of the raw material into what we call the output, so the finished goods and services. So there's always been production systems that have had these three basic things in them. Recently in time, though, the thought process around production system has really changed and has really evolved. The most famous production system that most people in manufacturing know of is called the Toyota production system. And the reason why it really is the most famous is because there are so many companies that have tried to model and mimic their own production system around the Toyota production system. But what this is a unique look at how the product is produced within inside of their facilities, and the approach and the philosophy that they use in order to do that. So Toyota's own definition of what this production system is that it's a philosophy really based on eliminating waste and really trying to pursue the most efficient methods to eliminate that waste. But yet embedded in all of that is the three main factors of input, conversion, and output. As we have seen all of these companies through the years try to mimic the Toyota production system, the one thing, I guess the six things that we can say is that there has always been these underlying principles in that. The first principle in any good production system is a visual workplace. So you have to be able to see what's happening out on the shop floor. It has to be visual. It has to be easy to see so that you can identify waste when it's happening out on the shop floor. The next one is employee involvement and accountability. And those two things usually come hand in hand. But people have to be accountable to standards. They have to be involved in the improvement process. And so we see that in all successful production systems. Methods and tools to drive improvements. So Kaizen, 5S, total productive maintenance, plan, do, check, act. All of these things are parts of production systems that companies have. Good documentation, good standards, good visual standards so that people know the difference between good and bad. So they can see what is right and what is wrong and the proper way to do those things. Making sure those things are documented and available out on the shop floor. Good standardized metrics, good access to those metrics across all departments and across the enterprise, so everybody's playing off the same scorecard. And then recently in time, part of these production systems is supporting software. So good CMMS systems or MES systems. A lot of companies have SCADA systems with third-party middleware that's in between those systems and pumping out digital data to scoreboards out on the shop floor. So all of those are kind of part of the process of putting in a production system within a plant. So what Leading to Lean has done is taken that concept of those six things and created a platform that allows for this production system to reside in a digital format. And so what a digital production system is real-time visibility, right? Allowing you to see those things that are impacting the performance. It should be simple. It should simplify your processes. It should eliminate paperwork. It should streamline your data collection process. And then ultimately, really what it should do is engage your employees in problem solving and drive those bottom line results, because they understand that through that problem solving, they're going to be able to help the company drive those bottom line results. That should happen all in a digital format. And so what do we mean by that? Well, if you think about the power of what we call social intelligence, we all are connected these days with social media. Most of us are. So we want to take that information and we want to take that technology, those good things from social intelligence, things like real-time visibility and instant feedback, that ability to know what is good and what is bad. Think about a mapping app that you may have on your cell phone that you use to drive down the road. You immediately know, it tells you if you're going the wrong way, or if you need to turn around, or if there's an accident ahead. So you're getting this immediate good, bad data through this app. And so we want to be able to use that out on the shop floor. And it's really important because we know that this is the way that the current generation is going to communicate. So, gone are the old days of, CMMS systems where maintenance mechanics are lined up at the computer at the end of the day and putting in their data and then trying to remember what they did at the end of the day, right? All of that now is in real time because of the way that technology works. A good digital production system will allow that to happen automatically. So what we want to do is we want to take that digital production system and we want to mimic those good things out of the social intelligence. So, good update of metrics. So are your metrics updating automatically? And I don't just mean, is it throwing numbers out? But I mean, are your goals and your metrics updating on the scoreboard? And does everybody play off that same sheet? Can you communicate across departments with what's happening? Can other people see what's happening in other departments? Know where resources are? Know where, maybe the focus of the facility is, and be able to see that. Alerts and notifications. Does the system tell you when something's going on, even if you're not standing out on the shop floor? Those things are all good aspects of what a digital production system can do out on the shop floor. The other thing with this new technology of working in the cloud is that data is now accessible 24/7. So gone are the days of having to have a super user to query the system, and 3 days later you get data back from a month ago that really has no bearing on what happened yesterday or what happened in the last hour. And then, of course, if we use this social intelligence correctly, we can engage the new workforce on a social platform that they understand. So let's talk about the real power of a digital production system. Really, the power here is quantifying the digital data. And what I mean by that is, let's take a look at one of the aspects of a digital production system. So one of the features in a digital production system is event management. At Leading to Lean, we call it dispatch. Think about what happens in this moment. Think about the power of knowing when an event happens on the shop floor. If you equate that to a 911 call, 911, what's your emergency? Engine 51, see the lady on the corner of 1st and Main with the cat stuck in the tree. All right. When that call comes in, at that moment, we know exactly what happened. We know exactly when it happened. We know when the cat got stuck in the tree. We can start clocking that. We know who called it in. We know who we sent out there. We know when they arrived at the cat being stuck in the tree. We know what the outcome was because they call it in. All of that data is collected in the digital system immediately when the dispatch comes in. As soon as that call comes in, the clock begins to run. So if you think about that out on a shop floor, when you have a downtime or you have quality issues or safety issues or any other type of event out on the shop floor, When that event is started in the digital production system, the clock begins to run and you start capturing the data. So now we don't have to go back and try to remember what happened or write it down on a tick sheet and put that into a spreadsheet and then upload that into some type of chart or graph. All of it is captured in real time in the system. This is what we call dispatch. So let me show you how that works. That real-time capture means that when that event starts, the clock starts, like I said. So what do we know? We know what the time is for the resource that we sent out there, whether it's an engineer or a mechanic, or maybe it's somebody on a gimbal walk, or maybe it's the supervisor on their daily standard work. We capture the time that they're actually doing that. We know the status of the job because they can update it through their mobile device on what is exactly happening out on the shop floor. So we can capture time. So did we have to put it on hold? Is it work in progress? Are they waiting on parts? All of those statuses can be updated right here and captured as the clock runs. We know exactly where it's at, right? On the corner of First and Main with the cat stuck in tree. We know the location of it. So we can pull data up on that location in the hierarchy. We know exactly what production line it's on. And then we'll also know exactly what machine or what area or whatever part of that production line that the event is happening in. We're capturing data on that. And we're slicing the time up so we can go pull that data. I'll show you that here in a second. We know exactly when it happened. We know how long it took our resource to respond, because when the clock starts when it's created, and then when the clock starts when they actually get put on the job, the difference between those two times, we can timestamp that and start collecting that response time. We know the event type. A good digital production system will give you what we call no code ability. What that means is that you don't have to have a software engineer create these types. You should be able to do that from an administrator standpoint. We know the value stream that machine and line may belong to, or other quantifiable categories. We can put that in here. The system can send out texts and emails based on the event that's happening. So whether it's the line or the person or whatever, it's sending out notifications. We're capturing this all. This all happens immediately when the dispatch is put into the system. One of the advantages of a digital production system is its ability to have a digital document control. And so you can tell the documents when to attach to the event. So you're getting digital documents that are going to attach precisely to the event. You can track your spare parts costs. You can do consuming of spare parts here if this is a maintenance issue or other issues. You're capturing all of your downtime codes or whatever the other codes that you want to set. And then you're capturing all the total cost of the event. All of this is happening immediately when you begin to work on the problem. So you don't have to go back in, or your techs don't have to go back in, or your engineers don't have to go back in and try to remember post-mortem what happened, because they're updating this event in their mobile devices as it's happening out on the shop floor, and you're capturing all that information. That information then is readily available and immediately available to access through charts and graphs. Every user should have access to all of the data that they need. Again, no longer do we have to go find a specialist, have them write a query, and then have that run for a couple of days and then go get data that's old. So we have this information at everybody's fingertip. The other power of a digital production system is its ability to capture metrics in real time and to calculate metrics in real time. Everybody has used the grease boards out on the shop floor. They're a great tool. They have been a great tool, but technology has moved on from the grease boards. And let me show you what I mean. Leading to Lean has what we call an operator portal that captures all of that data in real time out on the shop floor, so that you don't have to write stuff down and then pull it off of the grease board, put it into an Excel sheet, and try to calculate that information. What's the importance of that? Well, in any manufacturing setting, if you want to calculate basically any metric for manufacturing, there are 5 basic things that you find that you need. First of all, you have to know what the demand is. You have to know what the actual is. So what did we need to build? What did we actually build? You have to know the gap between those two numbers. In that, you have to know what scrap or rework you produced inside of that. You also need to know what labor you used to produce that product. And then the last thing you need to capture is downtime. Leading to Lean really is the only digital production system out there that captures all 5 of these things. So what do I mean? So you can see here that on this digital hour by hour board, or what we call an operator portal, we capture the demand, and we do that through scheduling, just like any production scheduler would do. We schedule it out onto the board. It shows up out onto the production line for the people to see what they need to do hour by hour or pitch by pitch. We put in the actuals. We can do this manually, or you can do that through integration. And those 2 numbers are now put in there, so we know what we should have built and what we actually did build for each pitch, each day, each shift. We can input scrap and rework inside the system as well. So the system can capture through integration. So if you have sensors at your blow-off stations, or if you have sensors as scrap is pushed off the line and you're counting that, you can put that information directly in here and you can see that scrap. So now you can see we're beginning to build some data around some pretty heavy metrics here. When an operator checks into the production line, as you see there on the bottom right of the screen, now we start tracking their labor to the product that we're running with inside of that pitch. So now I'm getting my demand, I have my actual, my scrap, my labor, and then the final thing that I need to capture is that downtime. That downtime comes over from those dispatches that we saw earlier that we created. So we can create a downtime event that'll port over onto the operator portal here, and then we can begin to calculate all of these metrics. Once I have all 5 of those standard metrics, I can begin to calculate a vast number of the metrics that we want to see within inside of manufacturing. The beauty of that is that once I have it in there digitally, the software calculates all of that stuff automatically as it happens. Gone are the days of spreadsheets, having to put the information in and update it and try to pull from all of these other systems in order to try to get the metrics that you want. A good digital production system will take all of that data, put it into the system, run it through the calculator, and spit it out onto your status boards out on the production line. You should be able to display that in real time and update it in real time in those metrics that you want to see. The other thing about a digital production system is that the one thing that it does that our older production systems have never done, we've always been really good at having events. We've always been really good at having like Kaizen events and 5S events and TPM events and all of that stuff. And we do some really good work with inside of those events. The issue is the sustainment of those improvements. And so how do we improve, or how do we sustain those improvements out on the shop floor? Well, some of the real problems with sustaining improvements out on the shop floor is follow-up, documentation, putting good standards in place. And so there are some things that we do with inside of these digital production systems and inside of Leading to Lean specifically that help and are geared toward the sustainment of your improvement. One thing is that we actually have lean tools. What that means is that each of those events that you have, whether it's individual Kaizens or large Kaizen events, whether it's problem solving or 8D or however you do that, there's a place within inside of L2L to store, track, identify all of the standards, all of the documents, all of the photos, all of that go along with that event. That is all then readily available to put inside the system and then to launch actions against, so that you can go back and see, I had this event, here are all the actions that I wanted to do for this event, and did I follow up? And we can see that through the dispatches and the events that we launch over in the dispatch system. The other thing that a digital production system does really well is that it connects maintenance and production. Both organizations are now playing out of the same system. You saw the dispatch side of that, and then you saw the production side of that. Well, what's happening now is that because we're capturing metrics, or we're capturing production in real time, we can use that data to push over to the maintenance system. And what that means is that as I'm updating real-time production over on the production operator portal, I'm also updating machine cycle counts in the background in my maintenance CMMS portion of the digital production system. So as I update machine counts, I can set up PMs that say, I want you to launch on this particular cycle count. When that machine hits that cycle count, or at some point in time before that, it will auto launch the PM based on cycle counts. Those of you in maintenance know that this is the higher level of PM. This is where we want to get. The reason why we've always struggled with this is because we've not had a mechanism to take true production, push it into the maintenance system, and launch true cycle-based PMs. The next thing that a good digital production system will always have, and always should have, is digital documents and a digital document control. The one thing I love about document control and digital document controls in the cloud is that the days of using out of revision documents are over, done. The reason why is because the system will only push to the job the latest revision of the document. So people are not pulling out of the system old revisions, whether we've printed them out and put them on the machine, whether we hand them out in the morning meeting for people to fill out, or whether they're going into a shared drive and choosing them out of some folder that's stored. Maybe they're hitting the right folder, maybe they're not. What's happening now is that we are updating these documents in the digital document control, telling that document through what's called intelligent association, telling that document exactly where to show up, where to go, where to be when we need it, and it shows up and will always be the latest revision of that document to show up. So whether that's for TPM or quality checks or standard work, that intelligent association will always make sure and ensure that the person using the document on their mobile device is always using the latest revision. Really, the nice thing about digital documents too, to sustain improvement, is that you are always getting the only document. So you can have, let's say, a PM where multiple machines can use the same PM document. In this situation, you can have one document that attaches to all of these machines. So if you want to update the PM for a number of machines, you update one document and that latest revision will always attach to the machines that use it. The other thing that makes it really nice for a digital production system to help sustain is that it's easy to identify the codes and the cost of what's happening, and we do that in real time so that we can make real-time decisions about what's going on out on the shop floor as the event is actually happening. We know spares costs, we know labor costs, we know when downtime is happening. All that gets calculated and can be sent out in notifications out on the shop floor. All of that data then is put into auto-generated reports and graphs. What do I mean by that? Auto-generated reports and graphs means that the system can take all of that work that you used to do in spreadsheets and pivot tables and put it into charts and graphs, and then send that to your inbox every morning at exactly the time that you want for any amount of time. So if on Monday morning you need a downtime graph of last week's downtime and you need a Pareto chart that says, here's my top Pareto items for downtime, the digital production system leading to lean and that cloud-based technology allows you to say, every Monday morning at 7:15, please print me out my chart and graph for last week, and you don't have to do any spreadsheets, you don't have to do any pivot tables, you don't have to do any tick sheet collections, any collection of data off of grease boards. It does it automatically, all based on that event that we saw earlier. No more super users having to be the one or two people within inside of the facility who can go grab the data, and then you wait a day or two in order to get that data. You can do it right then, right now. The system does it automatically and sends it to you exactly when you want it. And then finally, the other sustaining portion of this in a digital production system and in Leading Lean is that we can actually attach skills to each individual user, so that when a user logs into a production line, the system looks at the digital matrix, the training matrix, bumps it up against their requirements for that production line or for that role that they're in, and says yes or no, this person has the skills that they need in order to perform this job. And it becomes very visual out on the shop floor. If they need to, they can click on it and actually go into the training from there. But what it does is it allows us to see, do we have a fully trained workforce out on the shop floor? And it's simple to manage and easy to use right there in the same system. So the beauty of a digital production system is that it allows you to manage all of those things in one system. So we bring the entire production system into a digital format. Really, the great things of it is that we get good bottom line results, right? It is the tool to go paperless out on the shop floor. It centralizes all of your MES and your CMMS, all your Andon system, your event management systems are all now in one system. Everybody is playing off the same sheet of paper. Simplicity of document control. Auditors love the system. And then for all of you out there, no more spreadsheets, no more pivot tables. So you're welcome. There you go. Your life is going to become better. Okay, so there's a ton of good things about a digital production system. We'd love to show it to you. Get a hold of us at Leading the Lean. You can go to info@L2L.com, send us an email, or L2L.com and take a look at this. So thank you very much, and thanks for joining me.